Darius Colton stopped at the Mason Creek gas station for a soda after basketball practice, unaware that his ordinary night was about to explode into violence. Two white officers pulled up, their suspicion already loaded and ready to fire. To them, Darius was a threat in brown skin, a target to dominate, not a 16-year-old kid trying to get home. Their voices rose, their tempers snapped, and soon the pavement was stained with fear and humiliation. But what they didn't know was who they had touched. His mother, FBI Special Agent Maya Colton. And when she arrived, every badge in sight froze. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The humid Georgia air clung like a wet blanket as Darius Colton pushed open the glass door of Bright Mart gas station. The bell chimed softly, and the cool blast of air conditioning hit his face. His basketball jersey stuck to his back, still damp from practice. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a harsh glow across the empty aisles. "Evening, Mr. Jennings," Darius called out, nodding to the older man behind the counter. Carl Jennings looked up from his newspaper and gave a tired smile. "How was practice, son?" Carl asked, folding his paper. "Good. Coach says I might start next game." Darius headed toward the drink coolers, his sneakers squeaking against the linoleum floor. He pulled out his phone and typed a quick message to his mom. "Be home in 10. Want anything?" The cooler's glass door fogged up as he opened it, reaching for a Sprite. His phone buzzed. Maya had replied, "Just you, safe and sound." Darius smiled, grabbing a bag of chips from the rack. He was halfway to the counter when red and blue lights suddenly flashed through the store windows, painting the walls in alternating colors. Two police cruisers pulled into the parking lot, tires crunching on gravel. Darius felt his stomach tighten, an instinctive reaction his mother had warned him about. Keep calm. Be polite. Remember your rights. The store's bell chimed again as Deputy Kyle Drennan strutted in, followed by Officer Rourke. Drennan's hand rested on his holster, his face twisted in what looked like anticipation rather than concern. "Got a report of a robbery few blocks over," Drennan announced, his eyes fixing on Darius. "Suspect's a young black male, about 6 feet. His lips curled into a smirk. Well, what do we have here?" Darius's heart pounded, but he kept his voice steady. "I'm just getting a drink, sir. Coming from basketball practice." "Sure you are, boy." Drennan circled him like a shark. "Empty your pockets." "I haven't done anything wrong," Darius said softly, still clutching his unopened Sprite and chips. "I'm a regular here. Ask Mr. Jennings." Carl shifted behind the counter, clearing his throat. "Officers, the kid's fine. He comes in here all the time after practice." Drennan ignored him. "I said empty your pockets. Now!" Officer Rourke moved to block the door, his face a mask of forced authority hiding obvious nervousness. With trembling hands, Darius placed his items on a nearby shelf and pulled out his pockets. Phone, wallet, basketball keychain. "See? Nothing, sir." "Oh, you think you're smart?" Drennan grabbed Darius's arm. "Outside. Now." "Wait, please!" Darius started, but Drennan was already dragging him toward the door. "Mr. Jennings, call my mom. Please." The night air hit him like a wall as they shoved him outside. Drennan slammed him against the patrol car's hood, pressing his face against the warm metal. "Spread 'em." "I'm not resisting," Darius said, his voice cracking. "Please, I haven't done anything." A small crowd had begun to gather. Angela Ruiz, still in her nursing scrubs from her hospital shift, pulled out her phone and started recording. Her hands shook with anger as she captured every moment. "Stop moving!" Drennan shouted, though Darius was perfectly still. "I'm not." Darius's words were cut off by a sudden punch to his kidneys. His knees buckled. "He's resisting. Rourke called out, though his voice wavered with uncertainty. What happened next was a blur of pain and fear. Darius felt the bite of the taser, electricity coursing through his body. He screamed as they threw him to the ground, his face scraping against the rough concrete. Blood trickled from his nose, mixing with tears. "Mama," he whimpered. "Somebody call my mama." Drennan's knee pressed into his back as handcuffs bit into his wrists. "Shut up, boy." "Crying for your mama now?" Angela's voice rang out from the gathering crowd. "This is wrong. He's just a kid." "Back up," Rourke warned the onlookers. "This is police business." Carl Jennings stood in the doorway of his store, his face pale, hands gripping the doorframe. He wanted to speak up, to do more, but decades of ingrained caution held him back. Still, he couldn't tear his eyes away from the scene unfolding in his parking lot. They yanked Darius to his feet, blood dripping from his split lip. His basketball jersey was torn, smeared with dirt and blood. As they shoved him into the back of the patrol car, he caught a glimpse of Angela still filming, her face a mixture of fury and determination. The patrol car's engine roared to life. Through the window, Darius could see Carl Jennings shaking his head slowly. The old man's words were barely audible as the car pulled away. They just made the biggest mistake of their damn lives. Angela Ruiz looked down at her phone, the red recording light still blinking. Her finger hovered over the upload button, knowing this video could change everything. In the distance, police sirens faded into the humid Georgia night, carrying away a boy whose only crime had been stopping for a soda after practice. Maya's pen scratched across paperwork in her quiet Atlanta apartment, the only sound besides the hum of her laptop. Case files spread across her desk documented months of undercover work tracking corruption in local police departments. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago, forgotten in the rush to document every detail perfectly. Her phone buzzed again, the fifth time in 20 minutes. She'd been ignoring it, determined to finish her report. But this time, the constant vibration made her glance over. 12 missed calls. 23 text messages. A shared video link titled "Police Brutality in Mason Creek" topped her notifications. Something cold settled in her stomach. Mason Creek, where Darius was. Her fingers trembled slightly as she clicked the link. The video loaded, grainy at first, then crystal clear. Her coffee mug slipped from her hand, shattering on the hardwood floor. There on her screen was Darius, her baby, being slammed against a police car. "No," she whispered, watching in horror as officers threw him to the ground. "No! No! No!" Every cry from Darius felt like a physical blow. Every laugh from the officers made her blood boil hotter. When they tasered him, Maya's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a scream of rage. Her son's blood on concrete, his torn jersey, his terrified voice calling for her. Maya was moving before the video finished. She grabbed her gun from the safe, checking it with mechanical precision despite her shaking hands. Badge, keys, phone. Her mind raced through protocols and procedures, even as maternal fury threatened to overwhelm her. The elevator was too slow. She took the stairs 3 at a time, bursting into the parking garage. Her black FBI-issued SUV chirped as she unlocked it. The engine roared to life, and she peeled out of the garage, lights flashing. 2 hours. 2 hours to reach Mason Creek. Too long. Her hands gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles went white. Memory flashes hit her as she drove, teaching Darius how to handle police encounters, drilling him on his rights, watching him practice saying, "Yes, sir," and "No, sir," in the mirror. All her careful preparation, all her protection, stripped away by 2 badges and systemic racism. "Keep it together," she muttered to herself, weaving through traffic. "Think like an agent. Document everything." She called her supervisor. leaving a detailed message about the situation. Next, she contacted her lawyer, then the Civil Rights Division. Each call was precise, professional, her voice betraying none of the fear and rage churning inside her. The Mason Creek Police Department came into view just before midnight. A squat brick building with peeling paint and flickering fluorescent signs. Maya parked directly in front of the entrance, leaving her emergency lights flashing. Inside, the front desk officer barely glanced up. "Can I help you?" "I'm here for Darius Colton." Maya's voice was steel wrapped in silk. "You have my son in custody." The officer sighed, bored. "Visiting hours are over. Come back tomorrow to post bail." "I'm not here to visit." Maya's FBI badge slapped onto the desk. "I'm here to take my son home. Now." The badge caught the fluorescent light, golden and official. The officer's eyes widened. Phones stopped ringing. Conversations died mid-sentence. The entire precinct seemed to hold its breath. I'll get the chief," the officer stammered, scrambling from his desk. Maya stood perfectly still, counting breaths to stay calm. Her trained eye caught everything: security camera positions, officer nameplates, the subtle shifting of papers on desks. Evidence. All of it. Evidence. Chief Charles Harlan appeared, all Southern charm and pressed uniform. His smile never reached his eyes. "Agent Colton, what a surprise. I wasn't aware the FBI had interest in local matters." "Where is my son?" Each word was precisely enunciated. "Now, ma'am, your boy was caught up in a robbery investigation." Matched the description perfectly. When our officers attempted to question him, he became combative. "I saw the video." Maya stepped closer. "I want the body cam footage. Now." Harlan's smile tightened. "Unfortunately, there seems to be some technical difficulty with those files. Equipment malfunction, you understand." "Both cameras? Simultaneously?" Maya's laugh was sharp as broken glass. "That's quite a coincidence, Chief Harlan." "These things happen." He spread his hands in a gesture of false helplessness. "But I'm sure once everything's sorted out." "My son." "Now." Something in her voice, or perhaps the barely contained fury in her eyes, made Harlan step back. He nodded to a deputy, who hurried to fetch keys. They led her to the holding cells. Darius sat hunched on a metal bench, his tall frame trying to make itself smaller. Dried blood crusted his nose and lip. His jersey, the one she'd saved 3 months to buy him, was ruined. The cell door clanged open. Maya knelt in front of her son, gently touching his bruised face. His skin was cold, his eyes distant. "You're safe now, baby," she whispered, pulling him close. "They have no idea who they just messed with." Dawn crept over Mason Creek, painting the sky in shades of gray and pink. Maya's FBI-issued SUV glided through empty streets, her eyes constantly darting between the road and her mirrors. Every patrol car they passed made Darius sink lower in his seat. The silence in the car felt heavy, broken only by Darius's occasional winces when they hit bumps. His swollen face looked worse in the growing light. The medical report from the emergency room sat in Maya's briefcase. Contusions, mild concussion, bruised ribs. Each injury catalogued, photographed, and documented. "They following us?" Darius whispered, his voice hoarse. "No, baby." Maya reached over to squeeze his hand. "But I'm making sure." Her phone rang, the sound harsh in the quiet car. The caller ID showed Agent Shaw, FBI supervisor. Maya connected it to the car's Bluetooth. "Agent Colton," Shaw's gravelly voice filled the vehicle. "I've been briefed on the situation in Mason Creek. Sir, I'm preparing a full report on multiple civil rights violations, evidence tampering, and—" "Stand down, Maya." Shaw's tone was firm. "This isn't a federal matter. Local PD has jurisdiction." Maya's jaw clenched. "With all due respect, sir, they assaulted my 16-year-old son." They deleted body cam footage. They're covering up. I understand you're upset as a mother, Shaw cut in. But don't make this personal. Don't turn this into a federal incident. Handle it through proper channels. Proper channels? Maya's laugh was bitter. Like the Internal Affairs Department that Chief Harlan's brother-in-law runs? That's an order, Agent Colton. Stay out of it. The call ended. Maya's hands tightened on the wheel until her knuckles went white. Mom? Darius's voice was small. Maybe we should just let it go. I don't want you to lose your job. Maya pulled into their driveway, turning to face her son. In the growing light, she could see every bruise, every scrape. Her baby boy, who'd never hurt anyone, who helped elderly neighbors with their groceries and tutored younger kids in math. Tell me everything, she said softly. I need to know exactly what happened. Darius's eyes filled with tears. They didn't even ask for ID. Just grabbed me. When I tried to show them my school card, the big one, Drennan, he laughed and said I probably stole that too. Maya's throat tightened. What else? They kept... Darius wiped his eyes. They kept making jokes about running. The younger one, Rourke, he got real close and whispered, Bet your mama taught you how to run, huh? Then they both laughed. Maya closed her eyes, fighting back rage. Did they read you your rights? No. They just kept... His voice broke. They kept hitting me, even after I was cuffed. Said they'd plant something in my pockets if I didn't confess. A knock on the car window made them both jump. Mrs. Lang, their elderly neighbor, stood there in her morning robe, tablet in hand. Maya got out, positioning herself protectively between Mrs. Lang and Darius. But the old woman's face was creased with concern. I saw what they did to your boy, Mrs. Lang said, holding out her tablet. Angela Ruiz, the girl who filmed it? She's my granddaughter. She sent me the original video before she posted it. I made copies. Maya took the tablet, pressing play. The footage was clearer than the viral version she'd seen. You could hear the officers' racist comments clearly. See their deliberate brutality. Watch them high-five after throwing Darius in the car. It's everywhere, Mrs. Lang continued. Twitter, Facebook, all over the news. People are using some hashtag, Justice for Darius. As if on cue, a news van turned onto their street, followed by another. And another. Get inside, Maya told Darius, gathering their things. Mrs. Lang, thank you. Would you be willing to make a formal statement? The older woman nodded firmly. Those boys in badges need to learn they can't treat people this way. Not anymore. Inside, Maya helped Darius settle on the couch while reporters gathered outside. Their phones kept buzzing with messages and notifications. The hashtag John Justice for Darius was trending nationwide. Maya sat at her desk, connecting Mrs. Lang's tablet to her laptop. She played the video again. And again. Each viewing stoked her fury, but also her determination. She noticed details she'd missed before. Badge numbers, name tags, the reflection of a dash cam that supposedly wasn't working. Darius had fallen asleep on the couch, pain medication finally taking effect. Maya watched him breathe, saw how even in sleep he held himself carefully to avoid pressure on his ribs. She turned back to the video, freeze-framing Officer Rourke's smirking face as he whispered his taunt about running. If they want to play dirty, she murmured, pulling out her case files and notebook, I'll show them what real investigation looks like. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, accessing databases she'd built during years of civil rights investigations. Patterns emerged, similar incidents buried in reports, officers transferred between departments, evidence that consistently went missing, a system designed to protect its own. The afternoon sun blazed through Maya's home office window as she sorted through files and made calls. The TV droned in the background until a familiar name caught her attention. Breaking news from the Mason Creek Police Department regarding last night's arrest of local teenager Darius Colton. Maya's head snapped up. On screen, Chief Harlan stood at a podium, his silver hair gleaming under the lights, his expression grave but controlled. Security footage clearly shows the suspect attempting to leave the premises with stolen merchandise, Harlan announced. When confronted, the individual became combative and struck Officer Drennan. The screen showed grainy, choppy footage of Darius at the gas station. Maya's blood boiled. They'd edited out everything incriminating. No brutal takedown, no racial slurs, no tasing, just carefully selected fragments that made her son look guilty. "Mom?" Darius called from the living room. "They're lying. I know, baby." Maya grabbed her keys and badge. "Stay here. Keep the doors locked." The drive to the police station took 7 minutes. Maya counted each one, her fury building with every second. The parking lot was crowded with news vans and protesters holding hastily made signs, "Justice for Darius," and "Stop Police Brutality." Inside, the air conditioning hit her like a wall of ice. Officer Rourke sat at the front desk, his smirk widening when he saw her. "Can I help you, ma'am?" He emphasized the word ma'am like it was a joke. "I need to see Chief Harlan, now." "Chief's in a meeting." Maya slapped her FBI credentials on the desk. "Tell him Agent Colton is here about tampering with evidence in a federal investigation." Rourke's smirk faltered. He picked up the phone, whispered something, then nodded toward the hall. "He'll see you." Maya noticed everything as she walked through the station. The subtle nods between officers, the way Drennan leaned back in his chair, boots on his desk, looking completely unbothered. The quiet conversations that stopped when she passed. Chief Harlan's office reeked of leather and old cigars. He stood behind his desk, hands clasped behind his back, staring out the window. "That was quite a performance on TV," Maya said, closing the door. "Agent Colton, I thought I made myself clear last night. I want the complete footage. Security cameras, body cams, dash cams, all of it." Harlan turned, his smile never reaching his eyes. "I'm afraid that's impossible." "As I explained, there were technical difficulties. Technical difficulties don't selectively edit footage to make an innocent kid look guilty. Your son was caught stealing. By officers who conveniently lost their body cam footage? In a store whose owner publicly stated Darius did nothing wrong." Harlan's smile tightened. "File a formal request, through proper channels." Maya pulled out her phone, opened the FBI database, and typed rapidly. Within seconds, her face darkened. "The case file's already sealed," she said. "How did that happen so fast, Chief? Who do you have working for you inside the bureau?" Something flickered across Harlan's face. Satisfaction, maybe. Or triumph. "I think we're done here, Agent Colton. Don't let your maternal feelings cloud your professional judgment." Maya left the station, her mind racing. The speed of the cover-up, the sealed files, the coordinated response. This wasn't just local corruption. Someone with federal authority was helping them. She drove to the First Baptist Church on Malcolm X Boulevard, where Reverend Samuel Hayes had been leading the fight for civil rights since before she was born. The old church stood proud despite its peeling paint, its doors open to all who sought justice. Reverend Hayes sat in his office, surrounded by yellowing newspaper clippings and civil rights photographs. His eyes were sharp despite his age, taking in Maya's FBI badge and troubled expression. "I've been expecting you," he said, gesturing to a chair. "Saw what they did to your boy. Saw their lies on TV, too." "Reverend Hayes, I need to understand what I'm up against." The old man sighed, pulling out a thick folder from his desk. 1987. James Wilson, 17 years old. Resisting arrest. Beaten so bad he lost an eye. 1995. Marcus Taylor, 16. Matched a description. Found with planted drugs. 2003. David Reynolds, 15. Assaulted an officer. Ended up in a wheelchair. He spread out the articles, the photos, the death certificates. Every time the footage disappeared. Every time the files got sealed. Every time, good officers who spoke up got transferred or fired. How do they keep getting away with it? Because you're not fighting two cops, Agent Colton. You're fighting the whole system that protects them. Hayes leaned forward. The same judges signed the warrants. The same prosecutors declined to press charges. The same federal agents sealed the files. Maya drove home as darkness fell, her mind heavy with Hayes's words and the weight of decades of buried injustice. The house was dark except for Darius's bedroom light. The crash of breaking glass shattered the silence. Maya drew her gun, moving toward the sound. In the living room, a rock lay among glittering shards of window glass. A note was wrapped around it, held by a rubber band. She picked it up, unfolding the paper with steady hands. Leave town or lose your badge. Upstairs, she heard Darius stir. Mom? What was that? Maya looked at the note, then at her Glock, its weight familiar and resolute in her hand. She thought of all those other mothers' sons, James, Marcus, David, and how the system had failed them. Not this time, she whispered, her grip tightening on her weapon. 2 days later, the Atlanta Medical Center's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across Darius's bruised face. Maya sat in the waiting room, scrolling through case files on her phone, when it buzzed with an incoming call from FBI headquarters. Agent Colton, a cold voice said. This is Administrative Services. Effective immediately, your security clearance has been temporarily suspended, pending review of recent conduct. Maya's fingers tightened on the phone. On what grounds? Interference with local law enforcement operations and potential misuse of federal resources. You'll receive formal documentation within 24 hours. The line went dead. Maya stared at her phone, her mind racing. She'd expected pushback, but this was different. This was calculated. Someone inside the bureau was working against her. Her phone buzzed again. Lucas Trent's name flashed on the screen. She'd worked with him for 5 years, trusted him with her life on undercover ops. Now, something felt off. Maya, Lucas's voice was too casual, too controlled. Heard about your suspension. Look, I'm trying to help here. You need to drop this Mason Creek thing. Help? Maya kept her voice level. Like you helped seal those case files? Come on, you know how it works. Small-town politics, local jurisdiction. Let it go before... Before what, Lucas? A pause. She heard him swallow. Before you lose everything you've worked for. Think about Darius. He needs his mother employed, not, don't you dare use my son to threaten me. Maya's voice turned to ice. What did they offer you, Lucas? Promotion? Money? Maya, please. You're not thinking clearly. She hung up, her suspicions confirmed. Lucas's nervous tone, the carefully chosen words. He wasn't warning her. He was threatening her. The doctor called Darius's name. Maya watched her son limp into the examination room, his shoulders tense. The bruises were fading, but something else had been broken. His sense of safety, his trust in the world. Her phone buzzed with a text from Reverend Hayes. Meet us at Morales Media, 2 p.m., bringing someone you need to talk to. 2 hours later, Maya pulled into a converted warehouse space in downtown Atlanta. The sign read, Morales Independent News Network. Inside, exposed brick walls were covered with award-winning headlines and photos of protest movements. Tessa Morales looked younger than Maya expected. Early 30s, with sharp eyes and a laptop covered in social justice stickers. Reverend Hayes made introductions. Agent Colton, Tessa said, pulling up files on multiple screens. What happened to your son isn't random. I've been tracking Mason Creek PD for years. Look at this pattern. Graphs and statistics filled the screens. Arrest rates, complaint records, mysterious evidence losses. 10 years of systematic brutality, Tessa explained. Always against young black men. Always with lost footage. Always ruled justified. How are they getting away with it? Maya asked. Money. Tessa pulled up financial records. Civil forfeiture funds, inflated budgets, mysterious donations. Someone's paying to keep this quiet. And someone in the FBI is helping, Maya added, thinking of Lucas's call. Exactly. Tessa nodded. But they slipped up with Darius. They didn't know who his mother was. Now we have a chance to expose everything. Back home that night, Maya spread files across her dining room table. Darius was staying at his aunt's house. Safer there, for now. Lightning flickered outside as she cross-referenced cases, looking for patterns. A name caught her eye. Then another. Her hands started shaking. 3 deaths, all labeled drug overdose. Young black men, all stopped by Mason Creek PD in the weeks before their deaths. All cases involved officers Drennan and Rourke. Marcus Johnson, 19, found in his car with a lethal dose of fentanyl. The dash cam footage from his last traffic stop? Corrupted. Deshaun Williams, 17. Overdosed after a night in lockup. The holding cell camera? Malfunctioned. Andre Thomas, 20. Dead in his apartment from mixed substances. The body cam footage from a wellness check by Drennan and Rourke the day before? Lost in transfer. Maya's stomach churned. This wasn't just brutality. This was murder. She pulled up photos of the victims. Young faces, bright smiles. Lives ended too soon. Then she looked at Darius's medical photos. The bruises, the taser marks, the fear in his eyes. The same officers, the same pattern, the same cover-ups. Thunder crashed outside. Maya stood up, walking to the window. Rain lashed against the glass as lightning illuminated the street. Her reflection stared back at her. Not just an FBI agent now, but a mother fighting for every child these men had hurt. "You picked the wrong family," she whispered, her voice hard with determination. More lightning flashed, throwing harsh shadows across the scattered files, evidence of a decade of crimes about to be exposed. She picked up her phone and dialed Tessa's number. "I found something. 3 deaths, same officers. We need to start connecting the dots." "Come to my office first thing tomorrow," Tessa replied. "Bring everything you have. And Maya, watch your back. People who expose these kinds of secrets tend to have accidents." Maya hung up and looked at the photos again. Young faces, lost lives, a system that had protected their killers, but not anymore. Dawn broke over Mason Creek as Maya's SUV pulled into the nearly empty parking lot of Maggie's Cafe. The small diner sat on the edge of town, its neon open sign flickering weakly against the pale morning light. Inside, Tessa Morales already occupied a corner booth, her laptop open and 3 empty coffee cups scattered around her notes. Maya slid into the worn vinyl seat, her FBI badge hidden beneath her jacket. The fewer people who knew she was here, the better. "You look like you haven't slept," Tessa said, pushing a fresh cup of coffee across the table. "Because I haven't." Maya took a long sip. "Every time I close my eyes, I see those dead boys' faces. And Darius—" "We'll get the footage," Tessa assured her, turning her laptop to show a blueprint of the police station. "My contact says there's a backup system that automatically uploads security feeds to the town's central server. The police seized Carl Jennings's hardware, but they missed something." Maya leaned forward. "How sure is your source? He's been the IT guy for 10 years. Hates what he's seen, but was too scared to talk. Until now." Tessa pulled up an email. Says there's a copy in evidence locker B7. Old storage room they rarely use anymore. The bell above the cafe door chimed. Both women tensed, but it was just an elderly couple shuffling in for breakfast. First, Maya said, we need to talk to Carl Jennings. Get his statement on record before they pressure him to change it. The Bright Mart gas station looked different in daylight, smaller, sadder. Carl Jennings stood behind the counter, his weathered face tight with anxiety, as Maya and Tessa approached. We're closed for inventory, he called out automatically. Mr. Jennings, Maya said softly, we need to talk about what happened to my son. The old man's hands trembled as he arranged candy bars that were already perfectly aligned. I already told the police everything. No, Tessa corrected, setting up her small camera. You told them what they wanted to hear. Now we need the truth. Carl's shoulders slumped. He looked at the spot where Darius had been thrown down, then at Maya. Your boy didn't do anything wrong. I've known him since he was little. Always polite. Always pays. But those officers... His voice cracked. Maya waited, letting the silence draw out his courage. They came in looking for trouble. I heard them laugh when they spotted him, called him names I won't repeat. When they started roughing him up, I tried to tell them he was a regular customer, but... Carl wiped his eyes. They said if I didn't shut up, they'd find reasons to shut me down. Tessa's camera recorded as Carl described everything. The unprovoked attack, the slurs, how they'd laughed while beating Darius. Then they came back, he continued, took every hard drive, every backup. Said if I had copies anywhere else, they'd make sure I lost my license. But I've been here 30 years. This is all I have. Maya placed her card on the counter. When this breaks open, you'll need protection. Call me anytime. Outside, Tessa checked her phone. My contact says the evidence locker is minimally guarded at night. We can... Agent Colton? They turned. A young patrol officer stood by their car, looking nervous. Chief Harlan requests your presence at the station. Says it's about your son's case. Maya exchanged glances with Tessa. A distraction? Or a trap? Tell the chief I'll be there in an hour. The officer nodded and left. Tessa grabbed Maya's arm. It's perfect. They'll be focused on you while I check the locker. That evening, Maya sat in Harlan's office, listening to him drone about procedure and proper channels. Her phone buzzed silently. A text from Tessa. In position. Your son's case is complex, Harlan was saying. Multiple witnesses report aggressive behavior. You mean the witnesses you haven't let me interview? Maya interrupted. Or the ones whose statements disappeared like the body cam footage. Another buzz. Found B7. Going in. Harlan leaned forward, his fake smile slipping. Agent Colton, you're emotionally compromised. Perhaps if you took some time. Third buzz. Smoke. Fire alarm going off. Maya stood up as shouts echoed through the building. Officers rushed past the office door. Harlan's radio crackled. Fire in the evidence room! East wing! She ran through the chaos, following the smoke to the evidence storage area. Tessa stood outside, face streaked with soot, watching firefighters battle flames pouring from the doorway. The fire chief emerged, shaking his head. Electrical fire. Everything in there is gone. Maya knew better. The timing was too perfect. They were destroying evidence, erasing their tracks. She watched flames consume the truth about her son's beating, about those dead boys, about years of corruption. Tessa coughed, still filming despite the smoke. They're cleaning house. Maya's voice was ice cold as she watched their last hope of proof turn to ash. Then we stopped being polite. Around them, firefighters shouted orders. Water hoses sprayed. Smoke billowed into the night sky. But Maya barely noticed. She was already planning their next move, knowing that somewhere in this town someone had another copy. Someone else had seen too much. Someone else was ready to talk. They just had to find them before the police did. Maya sat at her kitchen table early the next morning, staring at her laptop screen through bleary eyes. Coffee cups littered the surface, evidence of her sleepless night searching for any digital trace of the gas station footage. Darius was still asleep upstairs, his bruises now turning a sickly yellow-green. Her phone buzzed. The caller ID read, Derek Lynn. "Tell me you have good news," Maya answered, keeping her voice low. "Maybe," Derek said. She could hear keyboard clicks in the background. "Remember when I set up that shadow backup system for the Bureau's Georgia field offices? Turns out Mason Creek's municipal network piggybacks on the same infrastructure." Maya sat up straighter. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that before someone torched that evidence room, every file got automatically mirrored to a secure server. Standard protocol for preventing data loss." More typing sounds. "The trick is finding the right backup among thousands of encrypted files. Can you do it remotely?" "Already am." "But Maya," his voice turned serious, "if anyone traces this, we're both looking at federal charges. Are you sure?" "They beat my son, Derek. They're covering up murders. I'm sure." She heard him sigh. "Give me an hour. Don't use your regular phone or email. I'll contact you through Signal." Maya paced the kitchen for 45 minutes before her secure messaging app chimed. A link appeared, followed by Derek's message. "Found it. Heavily fragmented, but recoverable. Get somewhere safe to download." She texted Tessa, who arrived within minutes in her beat-up Honda Civic. They drove to a coffee shop 2 towns over, choosing a corner table away from windows. Tessa's fingers flew across her laptop keyboard as she accessed the secure link. "It's big," Tessa whispered. "Multiple video files, timestamp logs, radio transcripts." The first video file loaded. The gas station's security footage was grainy but clear enough. They watched Darius enter the store, politely nodding to Carl Jennings. Minutes later, Officers Drennan and Rourke appeared. "Turn up the audio," Maya said, her throat tight. The officers' voices came through clearly. "Look what we got here." Another one of them thinking they own the place. The racial slurs made Maya's hands clench into fists. The footage showed everything. The unprovoked aggression, Darius's calm compliance, the moment they started beating him. The officer's laughter mixed with her son's cries for help. "This is it," Tessa breathed. "This proves they—" The video stuttered. Pixelated blocks appeared across the screen. The audio degraded into static. "No! No! No!" Tessa typed frantically. The files corrupted halfway through. "Looks like damage from the fire affected the backup." Maya leaned back, running her hands over her face. "But what we have is still damning," Tessa finished. "The beginning alone proves they lied. Shows the racial targeting, the excessive force, everything they denied." They spent the next hour downloading and securing the salvageable footage. As they walked back to Tessa's car, Maya noticed 2 unmarked Crown Victorias crawling past, standard police surveillance vehicles. "Get in," she ordered, pushing Tessa toward the passenger seat. Maya took the wheel, keeping her movements casual as she pulled out of the parking lot. The unmarked cars followed at a distance. She drove in a wide circle, taking random turns until she was sure they were being tailed. She headed toward Tessa's apartment building, but parked a block away. "They're watching your place," Maya said quietly. "You need to leave town. This is about to get ugly." Tessa squared her shoulders. "No, Tessa, you're fighting for Darius. I get that. But I'm fighting for Marcus Thompson, killed in custody last year. For Jamal Wilson, who resisted arrest until he couldn't breathe. For every kid who didn't have a Maya Colton to protect them." She met Maya's gaze. "I'm staying." The unmarked cars drifted past again, moving like sharks circling prey. "Then we do this smart," Maya said. "Upload the video, but through proxies. Anonymous account. Let it spread naturally. Make it harder to trace." They worked from Tessa's laptop, routing the upload through multiple servers. The video file was titled simply, "The Truth About Mason Creek Police." "Ready?" Tessa asked, her finger hovering over the enter key. Maya thought of Darius's bruises, of Carl Jennings's fear, of 3 dead young men who never got justice. "Do it." The upload bar filled slowly. Complete. Posted. For 5 minutes, nothing happened. Then 10 shares. Then 100. Comments flooded in. Local news stations picked it up. Then national outlets. Maya's phone exploded with notifications as the hashtag #JusticeForDarius trended again, this time with hard evidence. Calls for investigations poured in. The partial footage played on repeat across social media, each share building more public outrage. "Look at this," Tessa said, showing Maya her screen. The video had reached 1 million views in under an hour. "They can't bury it now. Too many people have seen it." Through the car window, Maya watched the unmarked police vehicles still circling, unaware that their targets had just launched a digital missile. The truth was out there now, spreading faster than they could contain it. She knew there would be consequences, threats, retaliation. But watching the view counter climb, hearing her phone buzz with messages of support and anger, Maya felt something she hadn't since this began: hope. The partial video wasn't perfect evidence, but it was enough to crack their wall of lies. And through that crack, Maya would bring the whole corrupt system down. The video had been online for less than 3 hours when the Mason Creek Sheriff's Office released their definitive footage. Maya watched it on her phone, her jaw clenching tighter with each frame. The new video showed a completely different scenario. Darius appearing aggressive, shoving Officer Drennan before the arrest. The quality was pristine, almost too perfect. "This is ridiculous," Tessa said, peering over Maya's shoulder. "Look at the lighting inconsistencies. The shadows don't even match. It's clearly manipulated." Maya zoomed in on specific frames. Amateur editing job. They didn't even bother matching the timestamp format with their own system. But the damage was already spreading. Local Facebook groups erupted in heated debates. The Mason Creek Community Forum split into warring factions. Those who'd seen the original assault footage versus those claiming it was selectively edited to smear our officers. Maya's phone rang. Assistant Director Shaw's name flashed on the screen. "Agent Colton!" His voice was tight, controlled. "My office, now." The drive to the Atlanta field office took nearly 2 hours. Maya spent it rehearsing responses, preparing arguments. But when she walked into Shaw's office, his expression told her it wouldn't matter. "Sit down," he said, not looking up from a manila folder, her personnel file. She remained standing. "This isn't a request, Agent Colton." "With respect, sir, I prefer to stand." He finally met her eyes. "You're suspended. Effective immediately. Badge and weapon on my desk." "On what grounds?" "Interference with a local investigation. Unauthorized access of federal databases. Leaking of confidential materials." He leaned back. "Need I continue?" "Those officers assaulted my son, which is precisely why you should have recused yourself." Shaw's voice softened slightly. "Maya, you're one of our best, but you've compromised multiple ongoing investigations. The Mason Creek situation requires delicate handling." "Delicate handling?" Maya felt her professional mask slipping. "Is that what we're calling cover-ups now?" "Badge and weapon, Agent Colton. Don't make this worse than it is." She placed them on his desk, each movement deliberate. "You know what's happening there is wrong. What I know is that you're emotional and no longer objective. Go home. Let the proper channels handle this. The proper channels. Maya had seen how those worked, slowly, quietly, until public interest faded and files disappeared into administrative black holes. The drive home felt longer, heavier. A black and white cruiser appeared in her rearview mirror about 20 minutes out from Mason Creek. It rode her bumper, high beams flashing. Maya kept her speed exactly at the limit, hands at 10 and 2. The cruiser swerved aggressively around her, then cut back in front, nearly clipping her front end. She recognized the tactic, intimidation, trying to provoke a reaction. The cruiser finally peeled off, but the message was clear. We're watching. Maya pulled into her driveway as sunset painted the sky orange. A familiar sedan was parked across the street. Lucas Trent's government-issue vehicle. He sat on her porch steps, looking appropriately concerned. "Heard about the suspension," he said as she approached. "Shaw's wrong, you know. This whole thing stinks." Maya studied her former partner's face. They'd worked together for 6 years. She'd trusted him with her life more than once. Now, she noticed the slight tension around his eyes, the way his right hand kept touching his collar. His tell when he was lying. "Want to come in?" she offered. "I could use a friendly face right now." Inside, Lucas paced her living room while she made coffee. "Maybe it's for the best," he suggested carefully. Stepping back, letting things cool down. "You still have that original gas station footage?" "Lost in the evidence room fire," Maya lied smoothly. "I'm out of moves, Lucas. They won." She watched him relax slightly. Sometimes the system works better from the inside. Give it time. They talked for another hour, Lucas probing gently about what evidence she might have left, Maya playing defeated and resigned. When he finally left, she waited exactly 3 minutes before slipping out her back door. The tracking device was smaller than a quarter, easily attached to his rear wheel well, as she'd pretended to look for her dropped keys earlier. Her phone showed his position moving steadily north, away from town. Maya followed at a distance in her personal car, headlights off along the back roads. Lucas's signal stopped at a secluded cabin near the lake, Chief Harlan's weekend getaway, according to property records. She parked behind dense trees and crept closer, her phone set to record. Through the cabin's window, she could see Lucas and Harlan meeting in what looked like a study. Lucas handed over a thick folder, the same type as FBI case files. Harlan nodded, handed him an envelope. Maya zoomed the camera, capturing every detail. The chief's satisfied smile. Lucas counting what was clearly cash. The way they shook hands, comfortable and practiced, like this wasn't their first transaction. "Got you," she whispered, making sure to get a clear shot of Lucas's face as he left the cabin. The night was quiet, except for crickets and the soft lapping of lake water. Maya waited until both men had driven away before heading back to her car. Her suspension suddenly felt less like a punishment and more like an opportunity. They thought they'd neutralized her, but they'd just freed her to operate outside the system's constraints. Maya woke before dawn, her mind racing through contingency plans. She moved silently through the house, checking windows and doors, a habit from her FBI training that now felt desperately necessary. The morning light was just beginning to creep through the curtains when she gently shook Darius awake. "Baby, we need to pack," she said softly, sitting on the edge of his bed. "Just essentials. My friend Patricia in Atlanta can take you in for a while." Darius rubbed his eyes, the bruises on his face still visible in the dim light. "Mom, I don't want to leave you here alone. I'm not the one they're trying to break." Maya squeezed his hand. "Pack your basketball gear too." Patricia's son plays for his high school team. While Darius packed upstairs, Maya moved through the house gathering documents, birth certificates, school records, medical files, everything they might need. She'd learned long ago that having backup plans for backup plans wasn't paranoia. It was survival. The morning air was thick with humidity when Maya stepped onto the front porch, car keys in hand. She stopped cold. All 4 tires of her SUV were slashed, rubber hanging in ribbons. Across the vehicle's dark paint, someone had spray-painted in jagged red letters, "We warned you!" Maya's hand instinctively went to where her gun usually sat. But of course, it wasn't there. She scanned the street, noting which neighbors' lights were on, which cars had moved since last night. Mrs. Lang across the street was already at her window, phone in hand, likely calling 911. But Maya knew the police would take their time responding, if they came at all. Her phone buzzed. Reverend Hayes's number. "Maya!" His voice was heavy with anger and exhaustion. "They hit the church last night. Spray paint everywhere. Racial slurs, threats, windows broken." She closed her eyes, steadying herself. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, child. But our people are scared. Really scared. Some of these young ones want to fight back, and I can't say I blame them." "I'm calling a meeting," Maya decided. "Tonight at the church. We need to show them the footage, all of it. Let them see what we're really dealing with." "You sure that's wise?" "Wisdom isn't working, Reverend. They need to see the truth." As she ended the call, a truck drove by slowly. 2 white men inside staring her down. She recognized them from the diner where she'd stopped yesterday. They'd called her names, tried to make her leave. The truck circled the block 3 times before finally moving on. Maya called a rideshare to take Darius to Patricia's, watching until the car disappeared around the corner. Then she walked the 8 blocks to the church, cataloging every hostile stare, every whispered comment. Outside the corner store, an elderly white woman actually crossed herself, as if Maya were the devil incarnate. The church's walls were covered in hateful words, but inside, it still felt like sanctuary. Reverend Hayes had already started cleaning, his weathered hands scrubbing at the paint. "They think this will silence us," he said without turning around. "Like we haven't seen worse. Like we haven't survived worse." Throughout the day, people began gathering. Word spread through whispered conversations and encrypted text messages. By evening, the church pews were packed, not just with the black community, but with white allies too. Carl Jennings from the gas station sat near the front, his face set in grim determination. Maya stood at the pulpit, her laptop connected to the church's projector. "What you're about to see is hard," she warned. "But it's the truth, and truth is the only weapon we have left." The footage played, the clear, unedited security video showing Darius's assault. Every brutal second, every racial slur, every moment of casual cruelty. The sound of her son crying out for her echoed off the church walls. Someone in the back began to sob. When the lights came up, the silence was deafening. Then Mrs. Lang stood up, tears streaming down her face. "My grandson is Darius's age," she said. "Could have been him. Could be any of our children." The crowd erupted, voices raised in anger, in pain, in determination. Maya watched as people who'd been neighbors for decades finally spoke honestly about their fears, their experiences with the police. Reverend Hayes moved through the crowd, channeling their rage into purpose, helping organize protest schedules and safety protocols. Later that night, Maya sat in her car outside the Brightmart gas station, staring at the spot where they'd hurt her son. The security lights cast strange shadows on the concrete where Darius's blood had been. She could almost hear the echo of his screams, see the ghost of his body being slammed against the ground. "You're not just getting justice, Darius," she whispered to the empty lot. "We're changing this whole damn town." The gas station's lights flickered, casting alternating patterns of light and shadow across the pavement. Maya remained there, watching, remembering. Every detail of that night was seared into her memory, not just from the videos she'd seen, but from the pain in Darius's voice when he'd finally told her everything. The way the officers had laughed, the feeling of helplessness as he'd called out for her. A police cruiser rolled past slowly, spotlight sweeping across her car. Maya didn't flinch. Let them watch. Let them worry. They thought they were sending her messages with their vandalism and threats. But she had a message for them, too. This time, the victim's mother could fight back, and she was just getting started. 3 days after the church meeting, Mason Creek erupted. Protesters filled Main Street, their signs held high against the scorching Georgia sun. "Justice for Darius" echoed off brick buildings as hundreds marched peacefully, led by community organizers trained by Reverend Hayes. Maya watched from her position near the courthouse steps, tracking police movements. They'd brought in riot gear, despite the protest permit clearly stating this was a peaceful assembly. She recognized the signs, the subtle positioning, the way officers kept touching their weapons. They were preparing for something. Her phone buzzed. Derek's name flashed on the screen. "Maya, we've got a problem." His voice crackled with static and urgency. "The cloud backup. It's gone. Someone got through my security protocols. They didn't just delete the file, they corrupted the whole server." The ground seemed to shift under her feet. "Can you trace it?" "I'm trying, but—" Derek's frustration was palpable. This wasn't amateur hour. They knew exactly what they were doing. The breach originated from multiple locations, bouncing through servers across 3 continents. Before Maya could respond, she heard shouting. At the intersection, police had blocked the permitted march route. Officers were pushing forward, batons raised. The crowd began to retreat, but there was nowhere to go. More police had circled behind them. "I have to go," Maya snapped, ending the call. She rushed toward the growing chaos, filming with her phone. The first canister of tear gas arced through the air. Screams erupted. Maya saw Mrs. Lang stumble, choking on the gas. She helped the older woman to safety behind a shop awning, her own eyes burning. Through the chemical haze, she watched officers swing indiscriminately at retreating protesters. Her phone buzzed again. "Tessa." "They're raiding my apartment." Tessa's voice was breathless, panicked. "6 officers, claiming they have a warrant for stolen evidence. They're destroying everything. My cameras, my laptops. Maya, all my source files." The line went dead. Maya's mind raced. This was coordinated. The protest violence, the deleted footage, Tessa's raid. They were striking everywhere at once, trying to overwhelm them. An hour later, as paramedics treated pepper spray victims, Maya got another call. Reverend Hayes had been arrested while trying to negotiate with police. The charge? Inciting a riot. She rushed to the station, but was blocked from seeing him. "He's being processed," Drennan smirked from behind the desk. "Might take a while. Paperwork. You know how it is." Maya drove to Atlanta that evening, her hands shaking with rage. She found Darius at Patricia's house, glued to the news coverage. His face was streaked with tears. "They're saying Reverend Hayes attacked an officer," he choked out. "They're calling the protesters thugs. Everything we do, they twist it around. They make us look like the bad guys." "Darius, maybe we should stop, Mom." His voice cracked. "Maybe this is just how things are. Nothing ever changes. We fight, and they just hit harder." Maya sat beside him on the couch, pulling him close like she did when he was small. He was almost as tall as her now, but in that moment he felt like her little boy again, scared, seeking answers she wasn't sure she had. "Baby, listen to me." She chose her words carefully. "Change never starts easy. You know why? Because the people in power, they're comfortable. They like things exactly how they are. So when we stand up, When we demand better, they fight back hard. They want us to feel hopeless. They want us to give up. But what if they win? They only win if we let them. Maya wiped his tears with her thumb. Every movement for justice looked impossible at first. Civil rights, women's rights, workers' rights. People fought and died for those changes. But they didn't stop. And neither will we. Later that night, after Darius had fallen asleep, Maya sat in her car in Patricia's driveway, head resting on the steering wheel. The events of the day played on repeat in her mind. The violence, the raids, the arrests, every bit of evidence vanishing, every ally being targeted. She reached for her glove compartment, searching for aspirin. Her hand brushed something small and hard. Frowning, she pulled out a USB drive she didn't recognize. A note was taped to it in Derek's precise handwriting. Emergency backup, original footage, plus metadata. Kept offline. Stay safe. Maya stared at the tiny device, hardly daring to breathe. Here it was, the complete, unedited footage of Darius's assault. Every second, every word, every damning moment captured in pristine digital clarity. Derek must have slipped it into her car days ago, knowing something like this might happen. Her fingers closed around the drive. They thought they'd erased the truth, buried it under corrupted files and fake warrants. But here it was, safe in her palm, small, but powerful enough to bring down their whole house of lies. Maya's hands trembled as she held the USB drive, staring at her phone. It was 2 a.m., but she knew Tessa would be awake. The journalist answered on the first ring. "They didn't get everything," Tessa said immediately, her voice hoarse. "I backed up most of my files to—" "We're going live tonight," Maya cut in. The silence on the other end lasted only a second. "The church basement," Tessa said. "Reverend Hayes gave me a key before they took him. It's already set up as a media center for the protests. 1 hour. Bring whatever equipment survived." The streets of Mason Creek were deserted as Maya drove through town. A few police cruisers prowled the shadows, but they didn't spot her car. She'd borrowed Patricia's old Honda instead of using her own vehicle. The church's dark shape loomed against the star-filled sky, its windows black except for a faint glow from the basement. Tessa met her at the side door, looking exhausted but alert. Her right eye was swollen, a souvenir from the raid. "They didn't find my backup laptop or the mobile hotspot," she whispered, leading Maya down creaking wooden stairs. "We can stream from here. Signal's not great, but it'll work." The basement had been transformed into a makeshift command center. Folding tables held computers and monitors. Protest signs leaned against walls covered with maps, marking police checkpoints and safe routes. The air smelled of coffee and determination. "How many viewers do you usually get?" Maya asked, plugging in the USB drive. "For breaking news? A few thousand." Tessa's fingers flew across the keyboard. "But that partial footage we released hit 500,000 views before they took it down. Word's been spreading underground. People are waiting for the full story." Maya pulled up a chair, adjusting the webcam. Her reflection stared back. Tired eyes, set jaw, a mother's fury burning beneath her professional calm. "Let them see everything," she said. "Every second, every lie, every cover-up." Tessa's hands hesitated over the keyboard. "You know what this means, right? The moment we go live, there's no turning back. They'll come for us." "Good." Maya straightened her FBI badge on her blazer. "Let them come while the whole world is watching." The red recording light blinked on. Comments began flooding the chat as viewers recognized Maya's face. Tessa's subscriber count ticked upward. 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 within minutes. "My name is Special Agent Maya Colton," she began, her voice steady. 3 weeks ago, my 16-year-old son stopped for a soda after basketball practice. What happened next was captured on multiple cameras. The Mason Creek Police Department has spent weeks lying about this footage. Tonight, you'll see the unedited truth. She played the video. The gas station security cameras showed multiple angles, crystal clear, time-stamped proof. Darius entering the store. Darius selecting his items. Darius being confronted. Beaten. Tased. Every racial slur was audible. Every moment of unprovoked violence exposed. Now watch what they released to the media, Maya continued, playing the doctored footage side by side. Notice the missing sections, the edited audio, the fabricated resistance they claimed justified their actions. The viewer count exploded. 50,000, 100,000, more joining every second. Comments rushed past too fast to read. Shares multiplying across social media. Maya kept talking, methodically destroying every lie. Officer Rourke claimed my son shoved him first. This footage shows that never happened. Chief Harlan stated the body cams malfunctioned. That was a lie. They were manually disabled before the assault began. The department released a statement about a robbery suspect. There was no robbery reported that night. Somewhere above, a door slammed. Heavy footsteps thundered across the church floor. Maya didn't pause. "This isn't an isolated incident," she continued, her voice rising. "Under Chief Harlan's leadership, the Mason Creek Police Department has systematically— Police! Stop the broadcast!" Officers poured down the stairs, flashlights cutting through the dim basement. Tessa's hands flew up, but she kept the camera rolling. Maya didn't move from her seat. "Systematically targeted young black men," she continued, staring directly into the lens as officers surrounded her. "They've falsified evidence, covered up brutality, and intimidated witnesses. And now they're here to silence us. But they're too late. Cut the feed!" An officer lunged for the laptop. Tessa blocked him. "Don't touch that equipment!" she shouted. "This is a protected press broadcast." Maya's voice remained calm as chaos erupted around her. "To everyone watching, download this footage. Share it. The truth can't be buried if enough people carry it." Rough hands grabbed her arms. She could see the viewer count still climbing past 500,000. Officer Rourke appeared, his face twisted with rage as he recognized her. "You have the right to remain silent," he snarled, yanking her arms behind her back. "I've been silent long enough," Maya replied, rising with dignity as the handcuffs clicked shut. She turned one last time to the camera, her eyes blazing. "You can't bury truth. Not anymore." The last image, broadcast to hundreds of thousands of witnesses, showed Maya being led away, head high, undefeated, while Tessa shouted the address of the church for arriving news crews. Through the basement windows, red and blue lights painted the walls like a revolution's dawn. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Maya sat perfectly still in the metal chair, her wrists bound behind her back. The interrogation room's cold walls seemed to close in, but she kept her face neutral, remembering her FBI training. Her shoulders ached from the rough arrest, but she wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her discomfort. The door opened with a dramatic swing. Chief Charles Harlan strutted in, his polished badge gleaming under the harsh lighting. He carried himself with the smug confidence of a man who'd never faced consequences, who'd built his career on making problems disappear. "Quite a show you put on," he drawled, dropping a thick file on the table between them. "Undermining law enforcement, inciting unrest, compromising ongoing investigations." He clicked his tongue. Not very professional for a federal agent. Maya met his gaze steadily, saying nothing. "Oh, now you're quiet?" Harlan leaned forward, his cologne too strong, too close. "Where's all that righteous anger from your little broadcast?" She could hear commotion outside, raised voices, car doors slamming, a growing crowd. But she kept her focus on Harlan, watching him like a chess player studying her opponent's tell. "You know," he continued, pacing now, "I've dealt with plenty of troublemakers in my 30 years of service. Activists, reformers, politicians, all thinking they could come into my town and tell me how to do my job." He stopped, planting both hands on the table. "But you're something special. A federal agent gone rogue, betraying her own kind." "Your kind isn't my kind," Maya said quietly, her first words since the arrest. Harlan's face darkened. "You'll never work again. Not in law enforcement, not in security, not even as a mall cop." His voice dropped to a venomous whisper. "And your boy? That disrespectful son of yours? He's gonna learn what happens when you pick fights with the wrong people." Before he could continue, the station's front doors burst open, the sound echoing down the hallway. Heavy boots thundered on linoleum. Maya recognized the cadence of federal agents' footsteps, the crisp authority in their voices. "This is FBI Internal Affairs. Everyone stay where you are." Harlan's smug expression cracked. He straightened up, reaching for his radio, but the interrogation room door flew open. Agent Shaw stood there, flanked by 2 senior IA investigators. His normally perfectly pressed suit was wrinkled. He must have driven through the night from Atlanta. "Chief Harlan," Shaw's voice cut like steel, "step away from Agent Colton. Now." "Now, hold on just a minute," Harlan protested, raising his hands. "This woman broke multiple laws, compromised." "What I see," Shaw interrupted, "is an illegally detained federal agent who exposed systemic corruption and civil rights violations." He nodded to one of the IA agents. "Get those cuffs off her." As the agent unlocked her restraints, Maya rolled her shoulders, never taking her eyes off Harlan. His face had gone from red to pale, the realization of his situation finally sinking in. "The footage has over 2 million views," Shaw continued. "The Attorney General's office called me personally. This station is now under federal investigation. All officers involved in the Darius Colton incident are suspended pending review." Through the windows, Maya could hear the crowd outside growing louder. Hundreds of voices joined together, the words clear even through thick glass. "Justice for Darius! Justice for Darius!" Harlan made one last attempt. "You can't just come in here and—" "We can, and we are." Shaw's voice was ice. "Your department's files are being seized as we speak. Every case for the past 10 years will be reviewed. Every complaint, every incident report, every piece of edited footage." Maya stood, rubbing her wrists. The crowd's chants grew stronger, accompanied now by news helicopters circling overhead. Local TV vans lined the street, their satellite dishes reaching skyward. "Chief Harlan," an IA agent said formally, "please surrender your badge and weapon. You're being placed on administrative leave pending investigation into civil rights violations, evidence tampering, and conspiracy charges." Harlan's hands shook as he unbuckled his gun belt. The badge he'd wielded like a shield for decades clattered onto the table, its shine suddenly dull under the fluorescent lights. Shaw turned to Maya. "Agent Colton, you're free to go. The Bureau extends its apologies for the delayed response to your initial reports." As they led her through the station, Maya saw officers being questioned, computers being seized, files being boxed up. Agent Lucas Trent sat in another room, head in his hands, as IA agents took his statement. The station's front doors opened to a sea of humanity. The morning sun painted the crowd in golden light. Hundreds of faces from every background imaginable. Black and white, young and old, families with children on their shoulders holding handmade signs. College students linked arms with elderly church ladies. The protesters' signs told stories of other victims, other injustices finally being dragged into the light. Tessa stood at the bottom of the steps, her camera rolling, sporting a fresh bandage over her swollen eye. Reverend Hayes had been released, his collar wrinkled but his spirit unbroken, as he led the crowd in a civil rights hymn. Maya paused at the top of the steps, taking in the scene. This wasn't just about Darius anymore. This was about every mother's son, every victim of unchecked power, every silence finally broken. "It's just starting," she whispered, her words nearly lost in the roar of justice awakening. Maya followed Agent Shaw through the chaos of the police station, where federal agents in dark jackets methodically moved from office to office. The sound of filing cabinets being pried open and computers being disconnected filled the air. Officers sat stunned at their desks, hands flat on surfaces, as IA agents collected their badges and weapons. "We'll need you to identify specific cases," Shaw explained, leading her toward the records room. "Your initial report mentioned patterns going back years. Start with any arrest involving Drennan or Rourke," Maya replied, stepping over cables being run to forensic equipment. "Especially cases with missing or corrupted body cam footage." In the records room, 3 tech specialists had already set up workstations. Boxes of files covered every surface, decades of paperwork being sorted and scanned. Maya spotted familiar names on the folders. Young black men arrested on suspicion, cases closed with planted evidence. "Here," she pointed, pulling a thick file. "Marcus Jenkins, 2019. Allegedly resisted arrest, died in custody. Bodycam footage accidentally deleted." Shaw nodded grimly. "Add it to the priority stack. We're building a RICO case, systematic corruption and civil rights violations." Through the window, Maya saw Reverend Hayes being escorted from his holding cell. His shoulders were straight despite the ordeal, his dignity intact. The officers who'd arrested him now couldn't meet his eyes. As he walked past the booking desk, several young deputies actually stepped back, shame visible on their faces. Tessa Morales burst through the front doors, her press credentials prominently displayed. Her left eye was swollen from the raid on her apartment, but her camera was already rolling. She moved through the station like a force of nature, documenting everything. "CNN picked up my live stream," she called out to Maya. "Every major network is running the footage. They're calling it the Mason Creek Conspiracy." Maya allowed herself a small smile. "Make sure you get the evidence room. The fire wasn't an accident." A commotion near the detective division drew their attention. Lucas Trent was being led out in handcuffs, his FBI credentials already confiscated. He'd been caught trying to delete files from his laptop, but Maya's surveillance footage of his meetings with Harlan had already sealed his fate. "Maya," he pleaded as they walked him past, "I can explain." "Save it for your deposition," she cut him off coldly. "The Bureau takes betrayal seriously." She turned back to the files, but a sudden burst of radio chatter made her look up. Officers were running toward the back of the building. Through the window, she saw Chief Harlan sprinting across the parking lot, a heavy briefcase in his hand. "He's making a run for it," Shaw barked into his radio. "All units converge!" Maya was already moving. She knew this building's layout from her investigation, including the rear exit Harlan was heading for. While others chased directly, she cut through the evidence room and out a side door, emerging into the morning sun. She heard Harlan's heavy breathing before she saw him. He rounded the corner at full speed, briefcase swinging wildly, and nearly ran straight into her. His eyes went wide as he skidded to a stop. "Going somewhere?" Maya asked quietly, her hand resting casually on her holstered weapon. Harlan's face contorted with rage and desperation. "You don't understand," he spat. "This town needed me. I kept order. These people trusted you to protect them," Maya cut him off. "Instead, you built a system of fear and corruption. You taught your officers that some lives matter less than others." He glanced frantically over his shoulder, hearing the approaching footsteps. "It was never personal," he tried. "Just business." The way things work. It became personal when your officers attacked my son, Maya replied. But you're right about one thing. It's also business. The business of justice. Federal agents swarmed around them, weapons drawn. Harlan slowly raised his hands, the briefcase falling open as it hit the ground. Stacks of cash spilled across the pavement. Years of payoffs and bribes exposed in the morning light. They led him back through his own station in handcuffs. Maya followed as they took him to his office one last time to collect his personal items. The space that had been his seat of power for so long now felt small and ordinary. "You really thought you were untouchable," Maya said quietly, watching him stare at his wall of commendations and photographs. "All those years, all those families you hurt. You never imagined facing consequences." Harlan's shoulders sagged as reality finally settled over him. His carefully constructed world of power and control was crumbling, exposed by the very people he'd tried to keep powerless. "Welcome to reality," Maya continued, her voice steady, "where actions have consequences, where justice isn't just a word you hide behind." Through the office window, she could see news vans arriving, their satellite dishes reaching toward the sky. Protesters gathered peacefully, their signs demanding accountability. FBI evidence teams carried out boxes of files, decades of corruption being dragged into the light. Tessa was already broadcasting live, her voice carrying through the building. In a stunning development, federal agents have uncovered what appears to be systematic civil rights violations within the Mason Creek Police Department. Multiple officers are in custody. Maya stood watching as 2 federal agents escorted Harlan to a waiting vehicle. His polished shoes, always so carefully maintained, scraped against the pavement. The morning sun caught his badge as they removed it, one final gleam before it disappeared into an evidence bag. Inside, the station hummed with focused activity. Evidence teams worked methodically through each department, documenting everything. The sound of cameras clicking mixed with hushed conversations and the steady hum of scanner machines. "Agent Colton," one of the tech specialists called out, "we found something in the false ceiling above Harlan's office." Maya followed him back inside. An agent on a ladder was pulling out a dusty metal box. Inside were more files, the ones they'd been most desperate to hide. She recognized some of the names immediately. "Marcus Jenkins, Jerome Wilson, Tyrell Brooks," she read aloud. "All the accidental death cases. They kept physical copies." Agent Shaw appeared beside her. "Old school. Didn't trust computers to keep their secrets." He picked up one of the folders. "This could triple our caseload." Through the glass partition, Maya watched Reverend Hayes speaking with community members who'd gathered outside. Despite his night in custody, his presence remained powerful, calming. He'd been right all along about the depth of corruption. "My team found something else," Tessa called from the dispatch room. She was reviewing surveillance footage, her laptop surrounded by notes. "Look at these patrol patterns over the last 5 years. The data showed systematic targeting of specific neighborhoods, higher arrest rates, more use of force, selective enforcement, all carefully documented in their own records." "They weren't even trying to hide it," Maya said, studying the screen. "They were proud of it. Thought no one would ever look closely enough to connect the dots." A commotion near the front desk drew their attention. Lucas Trent was being processed, his FBI credentials bagged as evidence. The man who'd once been her trusted partner couldn't meet her eyes. "Maya," he tried again as she passed, "I never meant for it to go this far. The money was just supposed to be a one-time thing." She paused, studying him. "How many times did we investigate corrupt cops together? How many times did you lecture me about maintaining the Bureau's integrity?" She shook her head. "You chose your side. Live with it." More federal vehicles arrived outside. The mayor and several council members were being brought in for questioning. Maya recognized the pattern. The corruption hadn't stopped at the police department. It had infected the entire power structure. In the evidence room, technicians carefully documented years of planted drugs, stolen property, and forged reports. Each box revealed new layers of systematic abuse. Officers who'd once swaggered through these halls now sat quietly, waiting to be interviewed. "Found the missing body cam footage," one tech announced. It was hidden in an encrypted server. They didn't delete anything, just moved it where they thought we couldn't find it. Maya watched as the videos played across multiple screens. The pattern was always the same: excessive force, racial slurs, false charges. Then the cover-up, reports rewritten, evidence planted, witnesses intimidated. Some of these cases go back 15 years, Agent Shaw noted, flipping through a logbook. Before Harlan was even chief. "He didn't start it," Maya replied. "He just perfected it, made it systematic." She picked up another file. "Look how organized everything is. Every false arrest, every planted piece of evidence, all carefully documented." They thought their records would never see daylight. Outside, more community members gathered. Not to protest now, but to witness. Mothers who'd lost sons, fathers who'd lost daughters, families torn apart by years of targeted harassment. They stood silently, watching justice finally arrive. Tessa moved through the crowd, recording testimonies. "They're not afraid anymore," she told Maya during a brief break. "Every story that was buried, every complaint that was ignored, it's all coming out now." In the chief's office, Maya supervised as agents boxed up decades of corruption. Each photograph on the wall told its own story. Awards received while citizens suffered. Commendations earned through intimidation and fear. The briefcase Harlan had tried to flee with sat open on his desk. Besides the cash, it contained lists of payoffs, dates of evidence tampering, names of officers who could be trusted to follow orders. His entire corrupt empire, documented in his own handwriting. "He actually kept records," Shaw remarked, examining the documents. "Detailed ones." "Men like Harlan always do," Maya replied. "They convince themselves they're running a legitimate operation. They need the paperwork to prove it, even if it's only to themselves." Through the window, she watched as more officers were led out in handcuffs. Not just the ones who'd attacked Darius, but all the ones who'd enabled the system, who'd looked the other way, who'd chosen silence over justice. The unspoken code of blue silence lay shattered. In its place, the sound of truth echoing through halls that had contained lies for far too long. The station that had once been a symbol of oppression was being cleansed, its secrets exposed to the light. As federal agents continued their methodical sweep, Maya picked up a framed photo from Harlan's desk, him shaking hands with the governor, both men smiling broadly. The image of power and respectability he'd worked so hard to maintain. Now it would hang in a courtroom as evidence of just how far the corruption reached. 3 months after the federal raid, Maya Colton stood at a podium beneath the autumn sun. Behind her, the freshly painted community center gleamed white against the Georgia sky. The old municipal building had been transformed, its stark institutional lines softened by murals of children playing, dreams soaring, and justice prevailing. Hundreds of faces looked back at her, familiar now after months of struggle and triumph. Mrs. Lang sat in the front row, the neighbor who'd first shown Maya the viral video. Next to her, Carl Jennings from the gas station, his weathered face proud. Tessa Morales stood to the side, still taking notes even now, her camera hanging ready. "When my son was attacked that night," Maya began, her voice carrying across the hushed crowd, "they thought they were dealing with just another frightened family, just another victim they could silence." She paused, letting the weight of memory settle. They didn't expect us to fight back. They didn't expect you, all of you, to stand with us. The audience stirred, remembering those dark days. The protests, the threats, the late-night meetings in Reverend Hayes's church basement. The slow, steady dismantling of decades of corruption. This center, Maya continued, gesturing to the building behind her, represents more than just a new name. It represents every voice they tried to silence, every truth they tried to bury, every family that refused to accept injustice as normal. Darius sat on stage behind his mother, tall and straight-backed in his basketball letterman jacket. The bruises had long since faded, but something in his eyes had changed. Not hardened, but deepened. He'd learned too early what it meant to fight for dignity. The Darius Colton Youth Empowerment Center will be more than a building, Maya said. It will be a promise. A promise that what happened here won't be forgotten. A promise that the next generation won't have to live in fear of those sworn to protect them. She gestured to where Reverend Hayes sat with other community leaders. When I first arrived in Mason Creek, Reverend Hayes told me I wasn't just fighting two cops. I was fighting a system. He was right. But what he didn't say was that I wouldn't be fighting alone. In the crowd, she spotted former officers who'd broken ranks to testify, city workers who'd saved documents, ordinary citizens who'd stepped forward with their own stories of abuse, each one a thread in the tapestry of change. This center will house after-school programs, Maya continued, legal aid clinics, counseling services, youth leadership training, everything we needed but didn't have when crisis struck, everything our children deserve. Across the street, the Brightmart gas station's new paint gleamed in the afternoon sun. The spot where Darius had been attacked was now marked by a small memorial garden. Beautiful things could grow from ugly moments. The federal investigation revealed corruption going back 20 years, Maya said. 53 wrongful convictions overturned, 32 officers indicted, 6 city officials removed from office. But numbers don't tell the real story. She looked at the faces before her. Black, white, brown, young, old. Neighbors who'd once viewed each other with suspicion now sat shoulder to shoulder. The real story is in this crowd, in how you refused to look away, in how you stood together when they tried to divide us, in how you transformed anger into action, pain into purpose. Darius stood and moved to join his mother at the podium. He'd grown taller in these months, carrying himself with quiet confidence. The crowd applauded as he took the scissors for the ribbon cutting. "My son was their mistake," Maya said, her voice thick with emotion. "But you, all of you, were their miscalculation. They thought fear would keep us quiet. Instead, it made us loud. They thought violence would make us submit. Instead, it made us rise." The red ribbon stretched across the center's entrance, a bright line between past and future. Darius's hands were steady as he positioned the scissors. "This center bears my son's name," Maya continued, "but it belongs to every child who needs a safe place, every parent who wants a better future, every person who believes that justice isn't just a word, it's a promise we make to each other." The scissors closed. The ribbon fell. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Young children rushed forward to be first inside, their laughter echoing off the new walls. Maya watched as Darius was surrounded by well-wishers, classmates, teachers, community members who'd supported him through the darkest days. He smiled and shook hands, no longer the frightened boy from that terrible night. Tessa approached, her notebook open. "Any comment on your new position with the FBI Civil Rights Task Force?" Maya smiled. "Just that Mason Creek won't be the last town we investigate. What happened here? It's happening everywhere. But now we know how to fight it. Now we know how to win. The autumn breeze carried the sounds of the celebration. Music from local bands, children playing on new equipment, conversations between neighbors who'd become allies in the struggle for justice. Across the street, Carl Jennings stood in his gas station doorway, watching. He caught Maya's eye and nodded slowly, a gesture of respect between two people who'd chosen truth over comfort, right over easy. The sun began its descent, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Inside the center, voices echoed with hope and possibility. Children's laughter rang out, the sound of freedom, of safety reclaimed. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please share it with your friends and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day!